Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and today I want to talk about the competitive Season 2. Yes, I know the season started some time ago already, but for those who have been tuning into the streams that I've been doing on Twitch, you'll know that I've been playing competitive pretty frequently as of late. So yes, it's taken me that long to finally sit down and write what I thought about the new season and ranking system. Now, I'm not someone who plays a lot of competitive, so this is going to just be based on my own experience, but feel free to let me know what you think if you are a seasoned competitive player. So, I started off the season in the usual way, going through the 10 placement matches to get my initial ranking. The season was a perfect opposite of last season's placements, where I won all but 2 matches. Instead, this time round I lost all but 2. However, I still had a reasonable ranking, but this immediately highlights one of the issues with the new ranking system. I can't for the life of me remember what that rank was. Because it's now 4 digits instead of 2, I can't remember what my rank is. Even now, I couldn't tell you what that rank is without opening the game, but either way I placed in silver and it wasn't long before I ranked up to gold. A rank that has a rather unfortunately shaped symbol for anybody with a slightly dirty mind. But the positive side of the new ranking system far outweighs my minor gripe with it. Even if I can't remember what my rank is, I still end up with a ranking system that takes into account much wider variances in the relative skill level of players. Last season, I'd be sitting in the mid-50s and be paired with people of the same rank, but it was evident even at the time that people were not of the same skill level despite the game ranking them as such. But with a much wider set of ranks to place in, it's definitely more likely that you'll get players in your skill bracket in matches. But is it balanced? Not exactly. On a recent stream where I was grouped with one other person, we were matched up against teams that would absolutely crush us nearly half the time, and the other half of the time it was the opposite. Very rarely we would get into matches that were very close. But we're talking maybe 1 out of every 10 possible matches that would turn out that way. At the same time, some matches still happened that frankly should not be possible. My friend was a silver rank while I was at the bottom rungs of gold, so we were in a match full of silver ranked players, but the other team had just 1 silver rank and the rest were bronze. Now, it was speculated that the matchup occurred because that team was a pre-made group of 6, whereas our team was formed from 3 separate pre-made groups of 2. But the outcome was as you would have expected. The match was woefully unbalanced, with the other team employing tactics that you would expect to see in a quick play match from newcomers to the game. On top of this, they appeared to be barely coordinated. Was this an example of bad matchmaking, or was this team attempting to smurf by playing badly? It's hard to know for sure. Overall, I'd say the ranking system is still definitely a step in the right direction. It's by no means there yet, since the wide differences in player skill still isn't quite being accounted for yet, but it does seem like matches are at least a little bit more fair. There is, however, an issue that I feel is not being addressed fully yet, and that's the issue with people leaving matches. Now, there's a certain percentage chance that a player may leave a match for a legitimate reason. Connection issues, PC crashes, home emergencies, etc. It can happen from time to time. Now, when a player does leave, of course there is a countdown that triggers, and during that time, other players leaving will also be penalized. At the same time, that is the period of time where the player can actually rejoin. Now, this is simply to prevent a leaving cascade effect that could make matches not only frustrating, but also unwinnable for the remaining 5. Of course, the player that leaves will incur a penalty and a loss, but the remaining players who leave will also incur the same loss. I can fully understand why Blizzard would do this. After all, as principal designer Scott Mercer said in a forum post, they want to remove any possible incentives for a player to tactically leave a game. After all, if only the initial leaver gets any form of penalty, then the remaining players are free to go. In other words, inciting a player to take the hit for the team would become a viable option. But there's a situation that's not accounted for here, because the player that has left has 1 minute to rejoin the match, and what I've actually seen happen, and this happened on stream no less, was a player that left the match when there was less than a minute to go, and then rejoined as it was ending, thus preventing a penalty for leaving, even though they ended up taking a loss just like everyone else. It sounds petty for someone to do this, but not getting a leaving penalty means they're less likely to be suspended from competitive play as they should be. Now, the player in question was not contributing enough to be an asset to the team anyway, but that's besides the point. The main issue issue is that the loss would be unavoidable at that stage, but they're just avoiding taking the penalty they actually deserve. And I feel like this is an issue that needs addressing. It's exploiting a loophole that is intended for players who do not intentionally leave, such as players who experience connection issues or unexpected game crashes, and rather than penalize people with poor connections and all that by removing this system, there needs to be a way to check if something like this is intentional. Obviously, the players that are hard-headed and persistent will find more ways around the systems in place, but it's definitely a loophole that needs addressing. But overall, this season is a sure improvement, at least in my opinion, over the previous season. The matchmaking, while imperfect still, is much better than it was last season. The lack of sudden death or coin flip is a big plus, and while I still have some reservations about the fairness of particular maps and game modes overall, it's moving in a direction that I think I like at this stage. But let me know what you guys think. Is this season really better than the last? How are you finding the new competitive changes? And if you're a seasoned competitive player, what are your thoughts on the competitive scene as it is right now? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like if you've enjoyed the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. My name is Panzer, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.